He has written his name. S. Karmakar. Okay. So, Karmakar and Manjari, because you didn't attend last time, you can stop me at any moment of time while we are going through the presentation to share something or to ask a question. You can directly interrupt me or raise a hand or whatever, however. So, typically, there are no set rules in terms of however you want to ask a question or interrupt to share something that you think will add value to the class. I have a standard presentation which is made out of the SLM or the self-learning module that you have been given or will be given. I do deviate many a times from the SLM because sometimes the SLM, because it's written by an academician, is a little dense. So I add, concepts from outside or examples from outside and try to make it as simple as possible because it's an online class. You are not seeing me directly, and I'm not being able to see you directly. So let's go about it. We've already started this core concepts last Sunday when the classes started. Let me just carry on from there. We had. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when I move the presentation, are you able to see the movement? Hang on. Uh, are you able to see the movement?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Uh, okay, fine. So we're going to be doing unit 2 of core concepts on transnationalism and globalization. What I also do is I normally do a tie back so that people who have not could not attend the first class know what we are doing. Just a minute. Okay. So just a quick recap. We had talked about mobility. We started off last semester, and there is a difference between mobility, migration, and diaspora. This course is about migration and diaspora, but we need to understand mobility as a term. Mobility is the ability or not the ability to move. It's because once you are mobile, then only you are migrating. Migrations can be internal in a country, and migrations can be international beyond the national boundaries. More often than not, whenever we talk about migrations, we are looking at international migrations. We are still not focusing on the internal migrations or the internal displaced people. There is a difference between both these terms. In mobility, it's not just the people, but let's say goods, material mobility or immaterial mobility. And mobility also is that if a person is restricted from mobility, that also comes under mobility study. In fact, mobility study is a separate stream of a separate subject of study. Individual, group, material characteristic, landscape, or a combination of two. So mobility is a separate issue in itself. This term is there, so I thought it's very important that I introduce it. Let's come to migration. Migration is not a new phenomena, as old as human evolution. And if you notice, and one of the ways to study this subject is to relate to yourself and your family. People migrate all the time. International migration relates to the movement of people across national borders. In fact, we need to also understand there are certain keywords which will be repetitive, which will be repeated across units, across teachers, across SLMs. Migration is one word, diaspora is another word. A couple of more words which you will hear very often is the concept of identity, the concept of belonging, and so on and so forth. So we will be talking these words pretty regularly. I also suggest that while I'm talking, you can also parallelly open your mobile and cross check or with Google or wherever if you are using AI assist. Please also understand whenever you use a search engine or an AI assist, please cross verify because especially the AI assist is notorious for giving wrong answers or made up answers. So learn to cross verify. Migration is a permanent or semi-permanent change of residence, individual, family, or group. It can be caused by multiple factors. Also understand in the world, in the real world, there are multiple factors which are at work parallelly. It's whenever we try and say that something has happened because of one factor, that is deterministic and normally does not happen. It is as a good narration to say deterministic one factor, but normally multiple factors are at play. Okay. It could be better lifestyle, better educational, demographic imbalance, family unification, calamities, climate change, wars, etc., etc. So there are multiple factors for migration. Uh, if I'm sure you would be aware of, in case you're not aware of, human evolution happened in Africa. Earlier theories talked about East Africa. Now there have been archaeologists have been or anthropologists have been able to dig up more sites in other parts of Africa. Subsequently, migration happened out of Africa. Why did people migrate out of Africa? They migrated out of Africa following game, resources, number of people increased, or just moving out. These are the routes they took for moving out. This is early human beings, 1.9 million years ago. The modern man or the modern human being evolved around 1 lakh years ago. So when we look at our age time frame of about 70, 75 years average, we are a blip on the the history of the world or the history of evolution or whatever it is. You can get this. This is an Encyclopedia Britannia map. Uh, Karmaka, can you put your mic on mute mode, please? I'm picking up noise.
My mic.
No, Redmi 8A, Karmakar. Thank you. Okay, so these are the types of migration. Migration can be classified as regular, involuntary, undocumented. Remember, there are, we use terms like aliens. There is nothing called an alien. These A person might be undocumented. uh, there is nothing called illegal migration. Illegal migration is more in terms of a political terminology. A person might be undocumented or he might take a route which might be illegal for a state. There is nothing called illegal. So if I'm traveling from one country to another, or let's say I'm traveling from India to Bangladesh or Bangladesh to India, I might take a route which is not, what categorized as a regular migratory route by the two countries, by the two nation states, uh, and I might be undocumented. But these terminologies have been brought in terms of migration politics. When we'll be studying about migration governance, we will look at why these terms are brought in. Because remember, migration, the documentation and the mobility patterns are there's a political angle to it. So regular includes family reunification, education, tourism, labor. Involuntaries, IDPs, internally displaced people. Internal displaced people can happen all the time. So, for example, when floods happen in Uttarakhand, the people get displaced, or when floods happen at a particular place, people get displaced. For example, internal conflict in Manipur leads to displacement of people. Then there are asylum seekers, refugees, undocumented included, smuggled, trafficker. Now, these are new words which are getting introduced. Smuggling is when people uh, like goods are smuggled into another country. It's a consensual relationship whereby, for example, a human or a person wants to travel to another country without valid documents. Then they would contact smugglers who would smuggle that person inside a country. That's smuggling. Trafficking is when it's a non-consensual relationship. You are forced or by deceit to be taken into another country and then made to do forced labor. Like what we have the concept of bonded labor in this country, where these people are put into debt, and then they are supposed to repay the debt by forced labor. So all these are in terms of types of migration. There are some theories of international migration we talked about. There is a neoclassical theory, which is an economic theory, talks about differences between supply and demand, country or region which has large presence of labor related to the availability of capital will have excess supply of labor. You can have a similar example in terms of rural India and urban India. Rural India has a large presence of labor relative to capital. So inevitably, people from rural area migrate into urban areas where there is less of labor and more of capital. And similarly, it happens between countries. There's a new economics of migration which emerged in NT. Also understand, as you go through this course and you go through multiple units and you come across theories, remember, no theory is perfect. Theories are proposed contextually by scholars. So based on a particular time and a particular issue, a particular scholar will propose a theory which somewhere down the line may get obsolete or may have multiple flaws to be replaced by another theory. So there are a lot of theories that you might come across. More often than not, in your end term examination, people, your examiners may not ask for, so you don't need to really mark theories. You need to understand a theory to understand concepts. You can generically understand to be able to craft an answer in your end term examination. Individual rationality and macroeconomic conditions are no longer considered sole factors influencing decision making. So that's more of it is there in the unit. As I said, I am doing a recap. Then we introduce the term of diaspora, population that is scattered across regions. So all diasporas are migrants, but all migrants do not constitute diasporas. There's an essential difference between a migrant and a diaspora. And the essential difference is how we will come across as various scholars put the difference. So as I said, I'll repeat, all diasporas are inevitably migrants, but all migrants do not become diasporas. There are conditions to be met before a migrant is classified as a diaspora. Safran was the first scholar who looked at diaspora in detail. In fact, the diaspora study started with Jews as the subject of study. Later, Africans and Armenians got introduced, and subsequently more scholars joined in, and the theory, the field evolved. So there are six criteria which Safran talked about, which characterizes, which terms a migrant into a diaspora: dispersed from an original center, collective memory, not fully accepted in host society, ancestral home idealized, committed to maintenance and restoration of original homeland, relate to homeland. So if you see today, Indians who are in America, who went to America in the 60s, so possibly second generation or third generation, they might still, or the first generation might be still relating to India as the India they knew of the 60s. In fact, you will, whenever you come across your relatives or friends from, let's say, America or Europe who have gone to those Western countries in the 60s or the 70s or the 80s, have this very fuzzy notion of India. They still think the India of the 60s, whereas the India of the 2026 is so much different. And that's where you will see these guys trying to preach nationalism, patriotism, and Indianness on social media, and kind of look at their their posts and their words, and you say, which world are they in? So their concept is totally different because they somehow relate to that homeland of the time when they left. Then subsequently, Safran Cohen came in and identified 5 types of diasporas. There is the refugee diaspora, imperial colonial, labor service, trade business, cultural hybrid, and so. So you see, the diaspora studies itself evolved, and there are multiple criterias in in defining who is a diaspora. How does a diaspora come about? Highlighted that time has to pass before the migrant community can be called a diaspora. So, inevitably, time has to pass before migrants become a diaspora. Okay, so now we introduce 2 new concepts. One concept is transnational. Guys, am I not? I hope I'm not going too fast. Are you in? Are you able to follow me?
We are fine, sir.
Okay, great. Oh, Sasya is also joined. Hi, Sasya.
Yes, sir.
Am I getting your name right or Sasya? No.
Perfect, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So let me introduce 2 new terms: transnationalism and globalization. Transnationalism, process through which people, institutions, and ideas connect and interact across borders of nation state. Remember, nation state is a very new concept. Though historically nation states came as far back as the nation state of Greece, the Athens was the concept, but the modern concept of nation state is a pretty recent concept. Concept challenges the traditional view that nation state is the singular dominant container for social, economic, and political life. Suggests that social relations are becoming increasingly deterritorialized, meaning they are not confined by geography. Now, think of the fact you are traveling to, let's say, Greece. I talked about Greece. You are traveling to Greece. Earlier, if you were to travel to Greece, you would typically take a ship. It would take a couple of months to travel to Greece. Once you would have reached, possibly, if you would have reached safe and sound in one piece, the hope of coming back was very small. And then how would you correspond back home? You would typically write a letter, which would take months and months to reach, if it reaches, and so on and so forth. The whole process was so cumbersome. Today, and you did not know where you are going, what was it looking, what kind of people were there. Today, before you travel, you already are able to get 360-degree videos of the place. You are able to Google the place. You are able to get a street view. You are able to get a satellite view. While you are traveling, you are connected on WhatsApp or iPhone. You are able to make an audio, video call. You are able to text messages. You are able to, take a photo. You are able to take a video. You are able to post it. So you don't leave India. You are connected 24 by 7 into 365, even though when you are traveling. And look at how it changes the whole equation of travel and going to an alien place, to a foreign place with a different culture, with a different mannerisms and so forth. Immigrants who maintain strong ties to their home countries while integrating it are a classic example. Familial, economic, and political networks that span borders, effectively creating social fields, link their country of origin and country of settlement. And look what it would do. So now, at the smallest of issue, you can call back home and talk to them. So even though you are in an alien culture, in the sense the culture is so much different, you are reconciling to a new culture, to a new time zone, to a new set of mannerisms, there is help in your hand. You can connect, you can ask, and you can not only connect to people back home, but you can connect to same ethnic people across the world. How would it change your experiences and the way you understand the world? The term was first coined in 1916. So again, this term is not a new term. It's an old term. American writer born in his essay Transnational America to describe a new cosmopolitan ways of viewing American identity. Later revived and popularized in the early 90s by social scientists and anthropologists, contemporary immigrants maintain deep multi-standard social, economic, and political ties to their home countries, while simultaneously integrating into new host societies. So you see, things have changed. Anything which happens in your home country is immediately in real time transmitted outside. And anything which happens outside is transmitted in real time back home. Now, the home influences the host, and the host influences the home. How? So, think about the fact how it would influence politics, economics, it would influence social, cultural, every experience on every level. So, and you know, this is happening across, it's not just across national borders, it's happening within the borders. So, when there is a Gen Z protest and memes are made, it is transmitted across in real time. and and that's why you will see that more often than not the bureaucracy is so far behind what is actually happening with the people, that you will see, you will see all those videos where there is there is this happening, that happening, statements are made, and it creates political issues, it creates law and order issues across borders, within borders, because information travels in real time. The growth of transnationalism is linked to a number of global forces, including modern communication technology, easy and affordable transportation, demographic imbalance, growing acceptance of diversity. So, again, as I keep saying, there is always multiple factors at play. There is never one factor. One factor might be a good way of narration. A one factor may be slightly dominating over the other factors, or the fact is, when a researcher looks at multiple factors, he or she might be focusing on one factor, but always there are multiple factors that play. Look at your own life. There are always multiple factors in you taking a decision. There is never a single factor. So there are all these factors which are at play. Transnationalism is also defined as from above and from below. What is from above? Activities of powerful institutions and forces, supranational political bodies like European Union, WTO, multinational corporations, global financial institutions, World Bank. So a Pepsi, which is a multinational corporation, when it starts operation in India, it brings in its processes, it brings in its work culture. Uh, that work culture influences the people who are working in the India operations. Those people, when they leave Pepsi and go to an Indian company, expect a similar kind of a work culture. There is tensions which happen. There might be changes which is incorporated, and so on and so forth. Transnationalism from below focuses on the agency of non-state actors and ordinary people, involves transnational migration, diaspora community, NGOs, amnesty. Everything influences everybody else. Every event and every activity influences everybody else, because there is a constant movement of information and people, not only within borders but across borders. So there are theories on transnationalism. There are two that I've listed in your SLM. It's a little dense what they have written. as I keep saying, wherever you feel your SLMs are a little dense or circuitous, try and make it simpler by using an AI assist or Google. Again, as I keep saying, when you use an AI assist or a search engine, please cross verify. AI assists are notorious for giving wrong answers and bad answers. It should not be that you are picking up something wrong. Uh, Also, a word of caution when you are giving your end or end semester examination, you would need to craft an answer by using certain keywords. Repetitions are not a problem. When you use a particular keyword, you tell the examiner that you understand part of it. So remember, you would need to craft an answer. So it should not be in a lot of places, you would not need to mug a lot of things. I don't think so. People ask theories. You might, if you remember, you can incorporate them to explain a particular, point or a particular way, crafting an answer. So there's a multidisciplinary approach. Translation affect diverse areas of international governance, including interstate politics, foreign policy, social values, international organization. Then there is a post-nationalist view suggests that states' control of its borders, inhabitants, and territory is diminishing due to transnationalism. Arjun Apudharai introduced the concept of translocality. Nation state has been displaced as an exclusive mediator of connectivity across disparate political community. However, whatever we say about the state's diminishing role, state still has a major role to play in terms of mobility, in terms of migration. So if a state brings up new laws in terms, yesterday only I was reading that US is making permanent the concept of a bond of $20,000 for 50 African countries. So if you are traveling to America, you would have to give a bond of $20,000, because that bond is that you follow the conditions of the visa, and if you don't follow the conditions of the visa, they can appropriate that money. Now, $20,000 is a huge amount for African or Asian countries. This is a way US is trying to curtail mobility or migration to the US. The most interesting part is economically the whole American economy works on immigrants, and yet politically immigrants is a hot potato. So there is a big negotiation or tension going on between the political side of America and the economic side of America. And you will see the world is going through a churn right now in terms of immigrants economically and politically. All studies, all researches that have been commissioned and done by various institutions across the world have proved conclusively that immigration is good for a country, both for a host land and for the homeland. Homeland because immigrants contribute to their GDP. Homeland because immigrants send money back home, which is called remittances, which is good for the home economy. And yet, politically, all countries seem to be going against immigration. So it's a very strange or a very interesting place the world is in today. Okay. So transnationalism is also not a single, entity. There are types of transnationalism. There is something called social, how networks are cross-border webs of relationships and containing maintained by individual groups or institutions across multiple nations. There is economic transnationalism, growth of transnational corporations, enterprises that own or control production. Meta, which runs Facebook and Instagram, is a transnational corporation. And service facilities in multiple countries. X or Starlink is a transnational. All companies are, in fact, are Ambani's are transnational corporation, Adani's are transnational corporations. Political emergence of long distance nationalism, where diaspora groups participates in the politics of their homeland, and rise of transnational advocacy networks. So if there is a human rights violation, Amnesty International, which is a transnational NGO, will come out with a scathing criticism, which countries can take or ignore. Israel is typically an example which ignores human rights criticism. Other countries take it in various levels. Then there is clandestine operation of criminal and terrorist networks across borders, drug trafficking, human trafficking, international terrorism. So there are all kinds of transnationalism. Does not erase local or national identities. It can strengthen them. Often reinforce their connections to their home cultures while they are integrating a new society. There is no, again, we need to understand in the real world there are no watertight compartments. People are negotiating all the time. Indians were earlier classified as model minority in the US. No longer is the case. There are multiple videos you will see where Indians are behaving obnoxious in foreign countries. There is a blowback. There are blowbacks, political blowbacks, which are happening against other immigrants in Europe. There are all kinds of negotiations which are happening. There is nothing called a model immigrant or a non-model immigrant. There are negotiations in terms of connections back home, integrating in the host society. One thing is very common across immigrant community. All immigrants contribute not only to the host society but also to the home society. It's only politically when the politics of a host country, they will look at a particular immigrant committing a felony or a particular crime, and then typecasting all immigrant community in the same. It does not happen that way. Now let's look at the second concept of globalization. Webster defines globalization as development of an increasingly integrated global economy. Free trade, free flow of capital, tapping of cheaper foreign labor markets. Global subordinates the local and the national. So today, when a transnational company, the reason a transnational company is able to operate, let's say in India, let's say a Pepsi or a Coke can operate in India, because now there is modern communication structure to enable processes to be shared across. There is modern communication structure which allows financial connectivity for money to come in and repatriated outside. There is faster communication for expats to come in, or immigrants from Western nations to come in, and Indians to go out quickly for meetings and for sharing information and technology. And there is faster communication for technology to be shipped in and incorporated and training given. If all these things were not there, things could not happen. And yet, all these companies have to localize their. So, for example, McTicky is a vegetable version of the McDonald's burger, which has ham or non-veg. They have made this McTicky, which is veg, which is localized. So if you see, globalization is also again not a new concept. It has been happening since 1000 AD. In fact, earlier than that. You will be very interested. You may already know, but in case you do not, if you look at our epics, there is a lot of commonality between our epics or the Greek epics. If you look at religions, all the religions have borrowed concepts from each other. There has always been travelers, traders, missionaries, travelers who moved around the world carrying ideas, carrying information, and so on and so forth. Are you able to hear my voice?
Yes, sir.
Okay, perfect. Then there was 1500 AD when European maritime adventures began connecting continents. Industrial Revolution 1800, industrial increases demand for raw materials, market integrating more regions. And the modern globalization post 90s, end of Cold War, digital revolution, and the rise of neoliberalism. Neo is the word we write for new or a new. So we use the word neo capitalism, new liberalism. It's the neo is neo rich. For example, the economic liberalization of India in the 90s by Manmohan Singh led to neo rich Indians. And a lot of people started then migrating, professionals started migrating post 1990s. So, in fact, in the theories of migration, one of the theories says that when when people become richer, in fact, when money comes in, it is not that the migration will stop. In fact, the migration might increase because now the people have resources to migrate. Then there are theories of globalization. It is classified under economic and under political system. So economic and political theories are theories like world system theories. Hyperglobist theories views the world as singular, unequal capitalist economy, nations into four countries, periphery country. If you notice, capitalism in a way is always somebody, becoming rich at the expense of somebody else. The whole capitalist model works on profit making. In fact, in MDI 7 and 8, you will learn or you will read more about ways of production. You will read about various economic theories, how economics have moved over a period of time, how the world has become more capitalistic, and how socialism came in. In fact, there is a counter movement today happening in the US about a democrat socialist, Mayor Mamdani of New York, who has an Indian descent, whose parents came from India, migrated to Uganda, went to UK, then migrated to US. And today, Mamdani is a American citizen. He's the mayor of New York, has an Indian descent. His wife has a Syrian descent. You see the kind of transnationalism happening on a daily basis in our daily lives. Hyperglobalist theory, globalization is real, irreversible phenomena, creating borderless global economy. National borders and traditional state sovereignty are eroding, multinational cooperation, global market, global governance. In fact, you will see every day, everything that you are the laptop that you are holding or the mobile that you are holding inevitably might have been assembled in India, but or would have been made in China with parts from Taiwan. It would have come via Malaysia, or it could have come via Hong Kong, or it could have employed workers from Thai workers, Malaysian workers, Vietnamese workers, Mexicans, Indians. You do not know how the money would have been routed. It could have gone to the Cayman Islands. It could have been come from Cayman Islands to India. It could have been in dollars. It could have been in yuan. Nobody knows. Then there are cultural and social theories. Global cultural theory and global village suggests that advanced communication technology, internet, and global media shrink the world into a global village. Shared global consciousness and cultural exchange. There is another theory on cultural imperialism, contradicts the idea of equal cultural exchange, that globalization is merely a form of westernization or Americanization. So you will see a counter culture. For example, in India, they talk about this is a Western culture. We should have an Indian culture. Now, it's very difficult to discern where, what is Indian and what is foreign. And there is a lot of, hybridization which is happening constantly across the world. So, for example, the other day I was being given this example. Somebody made a statement saying that why do we say in ABCD A for apple? Why don't we say A for Amrud, which is a guava? A guava is an Indian thing. The interesting part is guava is also not an Indian thing because guava was introduced in India by the Portuguese. So apples were introduced in India from Kazakhstan, Central Asia. The Jats came to India. The Jat community came to India from Central Asia. So what is Indian and what is foreigner is very difficult to discern over the course of human history. So then, it is a reductionist phenomena for politics to say this is Indian and this is not Indian, or this is American or this is not American, because the whole administration, current administration in the US, is comprised of immigrants and their politics is anti-immigration, which you find is very ironical. But that is the way across the world, which is again very ironical, but that's how the negotiations happen. Okay. Wealthy Western nations dominate flow of media, values products, threaten to overwhelm or erode local and traditional cultures. Many studies have shown that that's not true. There's a lot of hybridization which is forming. But as I said, these are theories based which have been formed at a particular time, at a particular place. Globalization can also be of multiple types. There is something called economic globalization. Major force behind increment in global interconnectedness is international trade. Led to the transnational mode of production, movement of labor from one country to another, and the creation of global financial system. Think about the fact many years back, if you wanted to send money home, it was impossible. Today, banks are able are today Indian banks offer you the facility of sending rupees outside to somebody and to receive money in various Indian currency inside. So for example, Amazon gives me a facility to publish a book and get money from the sale of book in Indian rupees, which I do. So I write a book, I publish it on Amazon, and I put it out in international markets. And in whatever currency that book is bought, I'm paid in Indian rupees. It's a part of the economic globalization. There is cultural globalization, spread of consumerism, rise of individualism, interest of economic and political dominant ones, homogenization is taking as bulldozing the local, regional, national diversity. And so today, think about the fact, rural festivals like Karwa Chauth, Rakhi, look at the commercialization which has happened out of a festival like Rakhi in terms of the brands, in terms of the mehendis, in terms of the gifting, in terms of today Amazon will bring out this major aspects. I will get WhatsApp messages from Fab India, what is their range of gifting. Tanishq will bring out their gifts on now. This could this could be seen as a part of a westernized capitalist model being imposed, but there is a lot of hybridization which is happening in terms of Indianization of this western concept, and so on and so forth. Economic globalization needs a political backup. Where states were one masters of market, now it is the markets which on many issues are the masters over government of states. Look at the fact that because of the ethanol policy of the government of India, suddenly sugar is in short supply. Because sugar is in short supply and the religious or the festival season is around the corner, the government has brought out a policy of 0% duty on imports of sugar. So the market is driving the politics. Political globalization has significantly affected the power and significance of the state. It both increases chances for the state as well as reduces it also. Now, again, it's not so simple to say that this has reduced or this has increased. There are all active negotiations which are happening, but the politics has become very interesting now in terms of how the negotiation happens. Has been seen as promoting privatization, rolling back of welfare provisions, and various such policies, which we are seeing in India on a daily basis. But we are seeing a counter movement in America with the rise of the Democrat socialists who are talking about a welfare state, who are talking about Medicare, who, and in India too, with new political parties talking about a welfare state, about giving what they some define as freebies, whereas other talk about welfareism. Wages are being kept low, transnational corporations are acquiring more importance, influencing of the state. Globalization is also creating what is called the sovereignty crisis. States are no longer the masters of their own economy. Today, for example, America dictates where India should buy petrol from. So obviously, there is this, or the World Bank dictates what you are supposed to do in terms of welfareism or cut back on welfareism. And if you allow this encroachment to happen, obviously the state's role becomes diminished. Citizens express their will and achieve majority control over governance becomes less relevant. The real power today, for example, Bill Gates is deciding a lot of policies in India. So you wonder who's running the government when you see the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation bring out a Twitter post saying that we have done this or we have not done this. In fact, there is a common criticism saying that demonetization was caused by a lot of these multinational corporations to bring in digital economy. Global order's economic fabric is moving away from primary international transaction between nations and governments towards transnational activities among business. So when Mukesh Ambani has a house in London or brings up or Adani picks up a port in Israel, it is a transnational corporation which is going to be influencing businesses across the world. So it's not just the foreign companies are coming in India, Indian companies are also going outside in influencing politics and economics out there. Now, there are convergences and divergences between transnationalism and globalization. They appear to be the same, but they are interrelated in one way. Convergences are mutual influence, deeply intertwined, mutually influence each other, often seen as an agent or vehicle of globalization. Transnational networks, activities, and spaces, both an effect of globalization and a force that helped to shape it, strengthen it, and fuel it. Obviously, without the people, what connections do you make? It's the people who are behind organizations. People move, they carry ideas, they carry the ideas of moving of capital, moving of labor. There's a free flow in terms of processes, capital, ideas, and people. There's interconnectedness. Both describe a world where traditional barriers are removed, closer integration of economies, social. Today, the world has become so much of interconnected that anything which affects any particular place in the world affects the whole world. Look at how the war in the Middle East is affecting the whole world. Everything affects every other country. If an earthquake comes in Colombia, it affects the whole world. There are divergences too. Focuses. Globalization places more importance on global and can lead to delocalization and denationalization. Subordinates the local and the national. Transnationalism, on the other hand, does not subordinate the local and the national. Instead, it transnationalizes them, strengthens them, encourages heterogeneity. While globalization, promotes homogeneity in a way, Transnationalizations promotes heterogeneity. Core actors, globalization as a top-down force, whereas transnationalism can be both top-down and bottom-up. So if people, let's say, US-India nuclear deal was held by a lot of lobbying of the Indian diaspora. So, that's how the transnationalism and the globalization affect countries. Outcome. Globalization can lead to homogenization, spread of single global culture, fosters heterogeneity. For example, a Nigerian living in a Delta village can have his everyday experience constructed through a diasporic connection to London, which strengthens their local identity. You also look at the fact you might have friends across the world, you might be speaking to them, you might have your colleagues or your college mates, classmates across the world. They might be sending you stuff or sending you information. You might be sending them information. You look at the fact that you might be sitting in a city where your parents might not be there, your parents might be in some other city, your languages could be different. There is a microcosm of globalization happening in India itself and a microcosm of transnationalism happening in India. It's just that we are not transferring across a national boundary. But let's say if you were a Bengali settled in Mumbai, it's a world of a difference. Or a Keralite settled in Delhi, it's a world of a difference. Globalization umbrella concept encompassing vast array of transformative processing refers to specific practices, ties in social fields, link people and institutions. Globalization suggests a top-down homogenizing force. Transnational connects bottom-up, heterogenizing connects localities, create more complex world. So it's the complexities which makes the world interesting. Okay, let's sum up. Transnationalism, powerful force of modern world, processes through which people, institution, ideas connect and interact across the border of nation states. Transnationalism is a popular term. Discussions of economics, international organization, terrorism, diaspora is linked to a number of global forces, including modern communication, easy and affordable transportation, imbalance, growing. See, there has to be a growing acceptance of diversity also. If you're not accepting a diversity, we are facing a problem. In fact, the politics of right wing across the world is going against the process of diversity. When at all a person says affecting our culture without defining what our culture is, it is, I don't want to accept diversity. And that's a political tool. Transnational connection manifests in numerous ways: social, economic, political, and clandestine. Globalization refers to a broader set of processes, lead to an increasing integrated global order, not just economic. It's not a new phenomena. Theories of globalization attempts to explain increasing interconnectedness across three main dimensions: economic, cultural, and political. So that's how transnationalism and globalization. So you have migration, you have diaspora, and to stir up the mix, you have transnationalism and globalization. Now, as you go further into various units and we look at case studies, again remember the whole concept of diaspora studies is evolving. Many units or many units in this particular course or otherwise also when you read about diaspora, whatever study was done, let's say in the 2000 or before 2005, did not incorporate the aspect of social media on the whole concept of diaspora. It is post 2004, 2005 when social media started coming in. when various aspects of transnationalism and globalization hit the migration process hard. And now you have to look at it from, you have to look at it from all these considerations. One can look at the advantages and disadvantages based on economic, cultural, and political dimensions. Critical consequence of globalization is impact of sovereignty of nation state, closely related but not identical, influence modern world, affecting each part of global system. So inevitably, whenever you look at migration or you look at diaspora, you have to look at the considerations of the fact that there is these people connected in real time. So today, even nation states, when they make domestic politics or they make domestic policies or they try and handle domestic issues, has to look at how it will affect transnational effects, or how would globalization affect it. So when, let's say, when the Indian state was looking at managing the Gen Z protest, many a times you might wonder whether the bureaucrats are attuned or the politicians are attuned to the current times or not. And it's not just in India, you will see it across the world. You will wonder, and it always happens that the state across the world and the bureaucracy across the world is kind of, because of their size and their, the way the bureaucracy functions, is a trifle slower behind people. And that is why, unless people are incorporated in policy and decision making, you will see all these policies fumble. There are some references and suggested readings in the chapter. Uh, there's Anderson, Appadurai. Again, in case you want, as I keep saying it, there are two focuses I have in this presentation. One of the focuses, in case you want to get more information out of a unit, you can read further, read laterally. The second focus is that you need to pass an examination, because that will help you to allow your degree or diploma or whatever certificate that you are applying for. So I try and make my presentation so that you are able to get both. There is Levitt P. Neuberg, Turn in Migration Studies, Andrew Hayward, Global Politics, and Nations Unbound, Transnational Projects and Deterritorialized Nation States. And I come to an end. In case you have any question, let me switch on my, yeah, Manjari, let me switch on my video. Hi, that's me. Yeah, Manjari.
Sir, I have few questions.
Few. Okay, fine. Start.
So the first question is about writing the answers. So there are like when we are talking about globalization or transnationalism, there are specific definitions given by various theorists. So when we write the answers or when we are trying to form our own point of view, how are we supposed to refer to them? Like, do we just say that this is what they have said, or do we use a particular referencing style?
In your end term answer, see, listen, when you are doing an assignment, you can use a referencing style by giving a reference, and typically APA. I use a lot of APA. You can use APA. You can use any referencing style if you're comfortable with MLA or with Chicago. I generally
Okay,
use APA. That is your assignments. Assignments,
okay,
make sure that you are citing and referencing. It's very important, because whoever is reading it knows that you're doing an assignment and you're referencing it. When you're doing your end term, you can say that, let's say, Cohen uh, was of the view that there are 5 times. So you may not give the year, you may not reference it. Many a times it will be difficult to remember all those things. Whatever you can remember, use it. Hi, Manjari. Good to
yes,
see
sir.
you. So whatever you can remember, you can put it out there.
Okay, sir. Thank
So
you for
if you
that.
don't remember a particular scholar, you can say, scholars have defined it as such and such thing, because the idea is that an examiner should know that you're in touch with whatever is going on. Okay.
So another thing that I have always struggled is to, like, when I'm writing the definition, to remember it word by word. So often I paraphrase it and
Paraphrase is
uh,
good enough. Paraphrase is
uh,
good enough.
okay, so
So you
uh,
can say, so you say, paraphrasing Cohen's definition of diaspora, so and so forth.
okay, so,
See, again,
uh,
nobody's asking you to mug it. Everybody knows, because it's a distance education, whoever is joining this, in more likelihood, is doing something else also. So, you know, idea is that that's why I said you need to craft an answer. So if you're able to craft an answer, have the requisite keywords, the examiner would understand that you are, following it, and will give marks.
okay, so the second question I have is, could you just give instances of where globalization and transnationalism converge or have been seen together?
So look at the fact. Globalization allows you to, have a, a family member go abroad and transfer money to them.
Yes, sir.
And globalization also is that Visa is a transnational company which allows you to do that, or MasterCard or American Express.
Okay.
Transnationalism is the fact that they can pick up the phone and say, Manjari, can you transfer $100 to me? I need to buy this. You're connecting. And then transnationalism also is, I saw this wonderful dress in New York, Times Square. And, so you come on a video call and say, show me. And you're seeing each other and say, anybody, this I've seen in Karol Bagh, or this I've seen in Crawford Market, or wherever Bombay Market that you have seen. It's not worth $100. I can buy it for 1,000 rupees. So you are able to do the conversion. So the transnationalism is that you're talking to each other, you are helping each other out. Globalization is the Visa, the MasterCard, or HDFC Bank or HSBC Bank is able to transfer that money, and so forth.
So just to clarify, transnationalism is the specific acts or the activity that we are doing across borders, whereas globalization is the larger phenomenon that is happening, right?
Transnationalism also could also be in terms of a Pepsi India and a Pepsi US company, Pepsi India affiliate, trying to localize their policies to suit the Indian environment.
Okay, sir. Okay, okay, sir.
Correct? So it works in different ways. So there are some convergence, there are some. Globalization tends to homogenize, transnationalism tends to heterogenize.
Okay.
Okay?
But both of them exist at the same time.
They feed onto each other.
Okay, sir. That was the question.
Without Facebook,
Yeah.
without Instagram, you will not be able to create reels. But an Indian reel, you remember this Gen Z phrase, Hadsa Jim? They used a particular, during the protest, they were using a particular phrase which came from American.
Oh,
Say,
Vastanavaya. Yeah,
Vastavaya, correct. Which
yeah.
is actually an American phrase which says, say
Yes,
hee
sir.
haw or something.
Yeah.
How it changes.
Yes, sir. Got
So
it, sir.
that's how it works. Okay. Any other
Okay,
question?
no, sir. At this moment, no. I'll read through and maybe reach out to you later.
Okay. And also, let me share my mobile number in case you want to send me a WhatsApp to ask me a question. So I put it in the chat window. You can note down my number. My name is Abhay Chawla. Sasya, any questions? Sasya? Okay. So in case there are no questions, then I see you guys at 5 o'clock. We'll be taking MDIE, gender and diaspora, or gender and migration, one of the thing. We talk about feminization of migration. So I'll meet you at 5 o'clock. Bye-bye. See you.